Thank you very much, Home Minister, for allowing us to be in the office today. First of all, you're welcome back from the IGAD Summit.
Thank you.
South Sudan just participated in IGAD Head of State Summit in Djibouti recently. Would like to know if you can tell us what was the summit all about.
Well, thank you very much. The President arrived yesterday, the day before yesterday, and he was supposed to have a first meeting on the 11th. But then there was a state visit of Kenya in Djibouti. So the meeting was, all the meetings were deferred to 12. And so the first meeting was a tripartite meeting. They call it a Troika meeting between President Salva and President of Djibouti and President of Kenya. And this meeting was held at 10 o'clock in the morning. And the President Salva chaired that meeting. And he presented a report about the current situation in Sudan and how much that he has made contact and consultation with President Burhan and also with RSF leader Daglo. And specifically at that meeting, President Salva presented a roadmap of what later on was adopted by the ordinary session. That roadmap contained about 13 points. Yes. Recommendation for the IGAD to be able to take concrete action on the situation in the Sudan. So the meeting ended by adopting the roadmap that was presented by President Salva, and then we went for a larger meeting of the IGAD. Now in that larger meeting, it was addressed by, of course, by Sudan. Sudan was the chair, and then the host, President Ismail Omar Ghali, and then the African Union, and thereafter, a performance report was presented by the Executive Secretary of IGAD, after which the President Salva was asked to give a situational report on the Sudan peace in particular. So he gave a situational report, and then also he presented the roadmap. The roadmap took 3 hours, debate, between the head of state and government. And it is that roadmap later on, when it ended, IGAD has been operating without a treaty or a constitution since it was there was an agreement that was made in 1996, and that agreement have not specified how the organization will be managed. The leadership, how the chair and the vice chair and the rapporteur and even the executive secretary and other offices will be filled. So the treaty was presented by the legal team of IGAD, and it was adopted. Soon after that, the issue of leadership came up. And when the issue of leadership came up, the constitution or the treaty have specified that it should be rotational. And this is what most of the regional committees, organization in Africa, and the African Union, they rotate by 1 year. And so the new treaty have gave IGAD a rotational, leadership. And then it should be alphabetical. So people started alphabetical, so it become Somalia. Djibouti. Yeah. Now President Salva became a vice chair. Yeah. If you are a vice chair, then next year you are going to be a chair of an organization. Then the person who was the chair, who is putting down the chair, will be a rapporteur. So Sudan is now a rapporteur. So this is basically what was discussed with regard to the structure of the leadership of IGAD. But then there are other positions that came up. One of it is the special envoy on Sudan. And two, there are two executive secretaries to the current executive secretary. 2 of them will come. One has already been given to Somalia, but the 2 now will be discussed and will be negotiated. Right. The special envoy and the deputy. Yes.
Before we go to that, I would like to ask you about what was the main purpose of South Sudan participating in the IGAD head of state, this recent one, as a country.
Well, we are members of the IGAD. Yeah. We are obliged by our membership in the IGAD to participate. First, IGAD as an organization is not about, it is about peace and security. It is about even issues of climate change. It discusses about issues of development. It discusses about issues of governance. So by virtue of this, all the countries are bound to attend this meeting. So there was no one agenda that we were going for as the South Sudan. But we went with our mind was so open to discuss various issues, including the issue of Sudan.
Yes.
Of course, the issue of Sudan was paramount.
Yes, we're coming to issue of Sudan. We've been having reports of South Sudan has been spearheading the Sudan topic. But according to the outcome of the IGAD summit, we have seen there is a change where the Kenya now is taking lead of the committee that has been formed to follow up the issue, and then South Sudan will be the deputy. Could you highlight more about why there is changing in this situation?
Well, it is obvious. IGAD is an organization of 8 members. We have now received Eritrea to resume. So we become 8. Now in the roadmap, it was adopted that Ethiopia will now join a high-level delegation to Sudan. So it will not be a trica or tripartite, it will be a quartet. A quartet will have South Sudan, Kenya, Ethiopia, and Djibouti. Now, since President Salva became a vice chair in the IGAD, then they said the 3, you have now Djibouti is the chair, Salva is the deputy, then the chair of Sudan will be either Ethiopia or Kenya. So this is where Kenya took it to lead. But we are still members.
Yes, and this
we are not deputy. Yeah. We are just members.
And this will bring us also to the Saudi US-led mediation process. There have been a lot of ceasefire been reached, but still the situation in Sudan is getting intensified, where the fighting is still on. So with this new committee, is it going to replace the one of Saudi Arabia, or is it going to work together?
Well, first and foremost, on the roadmap that was adopted, there are 4 key issues that was adopted there. One is to receive Ethiopia to join the quartet on the Sudan and to give chair to Kenya. And secondly is to arrange the quartet, the 4 leaders will arrange now an urgent meeting of President Burhan and General Daglo in one of the capital, either Juba or Nairobi or Addis Ababa or Djibouti, one of these capitals. And this meeting will lead to a third item, which is an urgent meeting within 2 weeks, for the access humanitarian corridor. The discussion will be specific within 2 weeks. And thirdly, call an inclusive political process, on Sudanese all. Those holding gun and those without gun within 3 weeks. So these are main 3 issues that were discussed. Now the third item is the core group. Core group has been expanded so that we coordinate all the peace processes. Now this core group is made up of 11 countries. 4 entities and about 7 countries. It is AU, IGAD, EU, the Arab League, and then South Sudan, Ethiopia, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, United States of America, UK, and this group. Now they will coordinate all the effort together with IGAD, so that there are no these several discussions that are being made. So the Saudi and IGAD currently now will be able to coordinate together. They want to bring it to the region. Yes.
Do we know any specific time when it is going to start?
No, it is immediate. It is immediate within the next 2 weeks. Yeah.
Now let's come to South Sudan. Recently, you've been traveling, having some trips into the region, also to Western countries, attending meeting counterpart, also in international conference. We would like to, if you can describe to us the engagement with those international conference and the bodies plus the countries.
Well, before we go to that, we have also undertook very important bilateral discussion with the government of Djibouti. First, His Excellency President Salva have visited a free zone and a port, port in Djibouti, to see by himself how South Sudan goods and services can be channeled through Djibouti to South Sudan. It's more shorter. And so we went to that place, which was a very good activity by the President and the accompanying delegation. Yesterday, I have signed a cooperation agreement between us and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Djibouti. This cooperation agreement will open, all the avenues for our ministries to be able now to link and to cooperate with the government of Djibouti. For example, if you want to use a port of Djibouti, it will be accessible. If we want to have trade, businesses and all this, it will be possible. Our business people can use now port of Djibouti, and this is one of the crucial aspects that we have achieved on this particular visit.
Do we have any time frame where it's going to start South Sudan to use the Djibouti?
No, it's immediate. Of course, what is crucial now is for us to link up the road from Pagak to the border of Ethiopia. But even now, we have our own citizens that are there. They told us that from Djibouti up to Upper Nile, it takes them about 4 days for cars to reach there, although the road is not that good.
Okay. All right, so let me go back to my question, because recently you were in Geneva and also you traveled to other countries. Would like to, if you can describe to us the engagements you had with those countries and people, how the inspiration.
Well, first and foremost, we have traveled to Bujumbura, Burundi, and this meeting was about Great Lakes. And basically, South Sudan are important members of the Great Lakes, and we are contributing in Eastern Congo, the DR Congo. We have contributed troops. So South Sudan is among the East African Regional Protection Force that are based in Goma. And so we discussed about the technicalities and the issues that are to bring about peace, and the issue of M23 in Eastern Congo. And so South Sudan has participated. It was actually the president supposed to go, but I was delegated to represent the president in that meeting. The head of states and government recommit themselves for us to be able to see to that the peace in Eastern Congo come, so that the population that are displaced go back, the forces that are in Congo, they are repatriated to their countries of origin, or demobilized and reintegrated into the community. So that was the first meeting that I've attended in Bujumbura. We have also attended an international conference in Oslo, and this particular conference was about the children protection in areas of armed conflict. South Sudan have signed a comprehensive action plan, with the children in particular, to remove all the children in the army, and also to get, children education, as we have declared universal primary education. That was declared by President Salva. So we have, that conference was attended by 400 delegates worldwide and about 80 countries. And then United Nations Special Representative for Children in Armed Conflict was there. United Nations Under-Secretary for Sexual Violence in Conflict Area was also there. The UNICEF, I met the UNICEF, the Executive Secretary of the UNICEF, I met her. I met all these people, and I expressed and I informed them the commitment of the government towards protection of children. Not only that, but toward creating an environment that will allow the children to grow with their homes and in the schools and other places.
Yes, and this also will bring me to the next question. You recently outlined 10 programs to clear the image of a country. You said that has been tarnished. Is it that being realized, and what actually tarnished the image of South Sudan, and to what extent?
Well, there are most of things. Number one, our foreign policy is very clear, as regulated by Article 43. If you look at all the provisions, it actually clearly indicated what's supposed to be our role as the Minister of Foreign Affairs. Of course, with the advent of war in 2013, 2016, a lot of things had happened. Our citizens have been subjected to a lot of problem by neighbors and You know, when you have refugees, people will not take you seriously. Not only that, there are other issues that have come up. For example, how to regulate our own document. You know, document like, for example, the passport, our participation in the regional organization, South Sudan, because we have, at one point, we have not been paying, or we have been paying. And so all these, you know, have not been helpful. Yes. Including our own members of civil society. You know, when we go to the international conferences, they go as parallel from the government. And you know, this is what the UN and other international organizations want. As if they want to hear that part, you know, about the tarnishing, about what is not being done well by the government, so that the international community can be able now to get sanction against South Sudan. This sanction, we have tried to work on it to get verification of what exactly that has been done. And those courts who have really presented, they have not produced credible and evidence on what has happened actually. So the 10 points are not basically about this, but are basically about our work. You know, want to perform our duty inside, because foreign policy is an expression of internal domestic policies. So how we behave here, you know, how our police, how our immigration officers, how people behave in the airport, these contribute a lot to what we are being perceived outside. Even the citizens themselves, how the citizens cooperate and work together is important also.
Yes, as acting Minister of Foreign Affairs, what have you corrected or still not to correct?
I have not corrected anything. I cannot judge myself. The people, the best judges are those outside, but not outside from the ministry. Did we change anything? Did we not change? But I always feel that we have not changed much. We have a lot of things to do, and we still have to do those things. Because South Sudan, people feel it is as if it's a young, we are not a young country. We have been working in all Sudan. Our people have been working in the UN. We have all the knowledge. This particular knowledge, if is brought here and people worked, I think South Sudan can get its rightful place. And one of the examples, for the first time, that South Sudan can be a vice chair of an organization like IGAD. We have not gone before. And I believe this is one of the biggest steps. Although South Sudan may be disappointed, personally I'm not disappointed.
Congrats. And this also will bring me to South Sudan government has been ranked, or maybe a country, as one of the most corrupt countries in the world. What is your comment on this?
Well, this is a subjective, this is a perception. Anybody can just see you with even a flag, and they say the people who are wearing this flag are corrupt. This is a perception, because they just feel that South Sudan people carry money with into his box and all these kind of things. Corruption is a vice that is everywhere, of course. You know, we have to get a credible, you know, conclusion for you to be able to say this is a corrupt. For example, we have Auditor General that should actually declare South Sudan and declare ministries and declare any other institution that is being corrupt. But if people just perceive collecting NGOs documentation and collecting people who are talking from the media, and in the end, they say this is what ranks South Sudan. We don't accept that as a country.
And also this will bring me to also another question. It's about the views that we are a failed nation. And also, you would like if you can tell us about the welfare of the diplomat abroad, hearing different stories.
First and foremost, how failing, you know, defining failing in terms of wrestling unless you fall down. Okay? In terms of this electricity is not working and it got to stop, you can say it has failed. But we are moving as a country. When you talk of condition of diplomat, yes, that's correct. We have been from 2016, we have not been regularly, you know, meeting the payment of rent and of arrears. First, there was austerity measures in South Sudan, due to crisis of Hejlich in 2012. Then come in the war, and the priority now shifted from normal management. You know, foreign policy is very expensive business. It is not just an easy thing. For you to be able to maintain 31 embassies, it's not that easy in a foreign country. You know, so the payment for the ambassadors, the payment for diplomats got delayed, and this is a reality. That there's nobody can escape that, and they have suffered. You know, and this is one of the things that we are trying to work on it as a change of image, because you either close the embassies and come and sit inside, or you maintain the embassies and spend money. You know, there's no other way. So we have decided to continue managing the embassies and try to clear the unpaid arrears, cleared and paid rent, you know, and we have agreed with the Minister of Finance based on the directive of the President. And we are going to do this.
And when are we expecting these arrears to be paid?
We have started. We have started. We have paid 3 months, and we have been now agreeing to pay every month the monthly salary to all the staff. Then we worked on the 2019. There are unpaid salaries there. There's also unpaid salary in 2020. Then there's unpaid salary in 2022. And this year, we have about 3 months. 2023, we have 3 months. In 2022, about 6. But we have about 19 months, the other from 2019 to 2020. These are rights of the staff. They should be paid. And we have agreed based on the directive of the President. And we are doing it.
Yes. And before we wind up, I would like to ask any achievement your ministry can be proud of the period you've been here as acting Minister of Foreign Affairs.
I have no any achievements unless other people talk about them. You know, I cannot be proud of something that I have not seen. We have to be together as a government so that we said this is one achievement that we have done as a government of South Sudan. Minister of Foreign Affairs is just one ministry. Whatever little activity that we are doing is a mandate and the mission of the ministry. It is others that can say there is an achievement, but we cannot proudly talk about ourselves that we have done this and that. Let others judge us.
Others are calling on the President, like to appoint you to be the minister instead of being acting Minister of Foreign Affairs. What did you say?
There is nothing hurry about being appointed. You know, it is important. I'm a soldier.
Yes.
I started as a soldier without a rank. Then I went to the war in 1984. And I fought as just a gunner of anti-aircraft. And then after a year, I was given 1 star. Then I began my work as an officer, and I commanded. I didn't request it to be given much of the star. I continued until I lost my leg in 1987, and then I went to Cuba and I came back. I wanted to go to the front. I was advised that you cannot run, you cannot exercise, that now you have to sit, what they call the administrative area. So at one point I was given a task to lead in a camp called Kakuma, refugee camp, where there were about 54,000, of which 21,000 was unaccompanied minors. So I led that camp as a chairperson of the camp until 1994, when there was genocide in Rwanda. I was arrested in Kenya because the refugees went on right. You know, they destroy enclosures of the head count. I was arrested, taken to Supreme Court and taken to remand. I spent 3 months in the prison. I was later on found, because I was just a leader, we were arrested, 7 of us. They were released. Then I came back and I continued in the camp until I went back to university, Catholic University of Eastern Africa, when I did 4 years. And I came back to South Sudan. I was appointed in 2007 to lead the National Commission for War, Disabled Widows and Orphan Commission. It is those that I work with, they can judge what I did. During my time in the commission, I supported about 8,000 families of martyrs. And I gave this tricycle Raksha 4,000 to wounded heroes. I supported about 12,000, you know, what do you call them, orphans in various schools with little support. I built 100 units of low-cost houses. I built 10 in Eastern Equatoria. I built 10 here in Central Equatoria in Terkaka. I built 10 in Bor. I built 10 in Wau. And the rest was supposed to be coming up in Rumbek and Western Equatoria. Until when I was removed, I came back when I was appointed here. So it is those in the commission that can say what I have done, but I cannot talk about it because this is my mandate. You know, we are people who fought for injustice, inequality. Wherever we go, we must ensure that these things are done.
Yes. Lastly, Honorable Minister, any remarks you would like to share with listeners and viewers of iRadio?
Well, it is a responsibility of all of us, including the iRadio, to help us to work on the shaping and helping the change of image of South Sudan, including how you ask questions. You know, some of the UN and agencies, they just wait what the iRadio asks citizens of South Sudan. You know, ask provocative question, a question that can incriminate the government. Some will like it. You know, you are free. We want a political space to our citizens, to our community, but also we should be responsible. We should be responsible on how we conduct ourselves. Whether the interviews that are being conducted, we should be mindful about a country called South Sudan. It is not a responsibility of those who are in the government. It is the responsibility of every South Sudanese, because tomorrow you will be in a position of responsibility. And we want to advise all our listeners, all our interviewers, to be candid and to be responsible whenever that they are conducting interviews.
All right. Thank you very much for your time.
Shukran. Okay. Thank you.
Yes.